This is the World Satsanga on the 25th of June 2016. Okay. So first of all, I'd like to welcome you all here. This, by the way, is going to be quite a unique Satsanga, specifically because I'm going to advertise the new way I'm going to work. And when I've gone through the agenda for today, which is basically for the system to settle down, and for us to go through a quick talk about working with the immersed incarnate human being, because we all try and help people who are immersed, but sometimes we get frustrated when they don't pay attention to, or don't want to pay attention to, or even listen to, or even work a little bit with our suggestions for them to move onwards and upwards. And then I'm going to go through participants' questions, which includes the ones that we missed from Bill and Fiona, Chrissy's friend from last month, and also there's a group of other questions that have been presented as well. Before I start though, because Skype's been particularly terrible over the last few months actually, I'm deciding to actually stop the live Satsangas. And I've had a chat with a good friend of mine, a chap called Kevin Moore, who some of you might know, who is the host of the Moore Show. And what we've decided to do is to hold the Satsangas as a recorded item, so that the questions that you currently submit for the live Satsanga will still be useful. In fact, they'll be essential actually, and the agenda will still be the same. So I will still talk about a subject that I feel and I'm giving intuition about is being important to talk about. I'll then go through people's questions, and I'll then go through a meditation at the end. But this will be a pre-recorded thing, and it'll be sent to you normally in the normal way. It'll also be broadcast on my website as well. But more importantly, it'll also be broadcast by Kevin Moore as well, as part of a how to say it, with me being a guest presenter on the Moore Show, on the radio side of the Moore Show, and he will broadcast it through the different mediums that he uses, which is YouTube and his own sort of radio station, etc. So it's going to be quite interesting, because it'll increase the bandwidth, so to speak, of those who are listening to the Satsanga, and also it'll remove this issue we have with Skype, which is, I mean, and Kevin himself said that Skype's been messed with quite a lot with recently, and it's not because of the work that's been going on with the new owners, which are Microsoft, and the number of individuals who are using it as well worldwide, in comparison to the number of people that were using it back with the first Satsangas. The actual robustness of the signal and the ability to get a conference call on it in the way we're using it is actually reduced to the point where it's becoming ineffective, and people drop off, and we have to have a certain level of software on board, and even right now I've got people who need to have an update. For instance, I'm being shown several people who need to have an update before they can actually receive part of this live broadcast, either via audio or via by the video, which obviously I don't use because of the number of people here. So what I would suggest is that the way we move forwards is to continue in the way we are, but it will be a pre-recorded Satsanga that I'll record and send to you normally in the normal way of the Satsanga, but it'll have the added benefit and bonus of being transmitted and broadcast by Kevin Moore on his system as well, and under his brand, with me being part of his, shall I say, guest presenters once a month. So I hope that sounds okay with you guys. Yeah, of course, Marnie's saying that the privacy issues are a problem with Microsoft owners now too. So it's a bit of a problem all round, really. So it's best. I think the movement forwards of having it all as a it's a bit of a shame to go this way, but also it's another way of broadcasting it and expanding the work. and I think actually it's removing this issue about having problems with, you know, with the robustness of the system. So please do send in your questions as we do normally. What I will do on the next series of broadcasts, I will say there's a deadline for asking questions, and then I will create the recording. Pretty much the same as I am now. It'll feel as if we'll be doing a live Satsanga. It's just that we won't have the upsets associated with the system falling over because of the bandwidth, or Wi-Fi is failing, or computers failing, or those sorts of things. Okay, so thank you very much for your support in the live version. Over, I think it's basically 5 years we've been doing this for, which is pretty amazing, really. And I'm really honoured that the people who are part of it have kept going over those years, and I look forward to working with you in a different way, starting as of July, actually. So from July onwards, it'll be part of the Moore show as me being a guest presenter, so to speak. But again, it'll be pretty much the same as this. I mean, you might find that for some of you who do listen to some internet-based radio stations, or even some of the terrestrial radio stations, there's an awful lot of people these days who are being guest presenters, who are presenting on a regular basis, are pre-recording their shows, basically via their laptops, and then they're sending this that recording to the broadcasting companies they're working for, and then it's being broadcast at the correct schedule. So lots of the work that goes on with radio stations and different radio shows now are already pre-recorded anyway in this way. So it's nothing new, but it is helping us to move forwards, remove some of the inconsistencies in the ability to present the information, and of course the frustrations associated with the system falling over every now and then. But on top of that, it allows us to expand the bandwidth for the individuals who would be able to be exposed to the questions that you're asking, which are brilliant questions. I mean, some of these questions are outstanding questions, and they cause me considerable cause for thought as well, and the need to channel information. But also, the information that comes back is also important. So it's going to be even more important now to send the questions in, and for me to record it and to broadcast it via Kevin Moore, and of course by the standard emails to yourself. That won't stop. Standard emails to yourselves will still be there, and also it'll still be broadcast, of course, on my website as well. There will be some livery there, so to speak, associated with Kevin Moore and the Kevin Moore show. So I'll be putting that on over the next few weeks to a month, etc., so that we start to see the association and the partnership between myself and Kevin. Okay, well, thank you for listening to this first bit. I think it's very important to talk about it first, because right now we do have remarkably enough, we do have quite a stable signal as it happens, which is obviously the system has decided that it does need to be robust while I'm broadcasting this change of the way we're doing things. So thank you for all being here, being part of the first sort of 5 years of this method of delivering new questions and new answers to those questions. But more importantly, also thank you very much for being part of the new version as well. And there's a possibility potentially for people who do help out with transcribing the information to also transcribe it. We can put that on the website as well, or part of the forum as well, because some of the questions that are there could also be part of the forum. So I know that others done some work on the forum, and although it's slow taking off, it would be useful to have the questions and the answers transcribed. And they can be sort of they can be as they are in an unfiltered sense, or they can be summarised in some way if they want to as well. And therefore, people who can't listen to some of the digital audio files can catch up via any transcriptions that are there as well. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Others just said she'd be happy to do that. Thank you very much. It's very important actually that there's a multimodal method of transmitting this information, and it's a wonderful way to do it. And thank you very much for helping out there. Okay. Mine is typing something. I'll catch up with that in a minute. Okay. Mine is also taking notes, and she can email the transcriptions too as well. So if Marnie and Ulla want to work together, that'd be great. We can work on that. Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you everybody, and thank you very much for your patience in the past with this system, and thank you for in anticipation of working with the new way we're going to work, which is great. Right. back to the agenda, and just want to go through it. We've gone through the greetings and the explanation of the new route forwards, and the next part is actually a short talk by myself about letting the immersed incarnate doing their own thing, which is really the lesson in not feeling frustrated when they don't follow your light, for instance, or your example, and hoping and giving them love so that they'll move forwards. One of the things that we all do as spiritual individuals is, and we all have an immense desire for this, and we're all extremely enthusiastic about this, is passing on what we know to others. We love to work with people of the same mind and the same thought processes, and we all like to expand our own awareness and consciousness. And also we like to explain where we are to others who we feel may be interested, or we just want to just talk about it. And one of the things that really surprises us is when there's people that we do talk to who we think may be interested in what we're discussing or what we understand, actually reject that information. And this is a bit of it can be a bit of a blow for us, and it can put us back a little bit in terms of our own thought processes and our own confidence and desires to move forwards. And so really when we do select people, by the way, to talk to about something we know about, something we want to discuss about, something we just discovered, something that we feel is important that they might be interested in, we have to be careful actually. We have to understand and use our own intuition to find out whether that person really is right for us to give them the information. And I've got plenty of examples here of my own personal friendships where there are individuals I've known for 35, 40 years who basically, and Joe just said the same thing that's happened to him recently as well, which is interesting, isn't it? It's when it was off with the person, yeah. So Joseph said it's happened to me recently where my intuition was off with a person in terms of whether you think the person you could talk to about spiritual things or not. And Ulla's just said your brother calls you a cuckoo. I've got friends who think I'm on a completely different planet, and that's okay, you know. And some of the friends I've got accept it, and they just let me get on with it, and that's fine. The thing to do is to use your intuition about whether you should talk to somebody or not. And I have had, in my own experience, some really good intuitive information about certain individuals who I can talk about the spiritual work to, or the metaphysical work to, and others I've made a complete mess of it. And the ones I've made a complete mess of it are those that I've not used my intuition about. And those individuals tend to be people I've either worked with or I've known as a friend for years and years and years. And you think that because you've grown up with them or you've worked with them for a long time, that we know them, that we understand how they think and how they work and everything else. But what we don't understand really is that most of the way we talk to people, when we communicate with people, is based upon a certain level of a facade, where we present a personality to people that we want them to see. And this sometimes includes collusion. And that collusion from our friends means that and ourselves as well, is that we sort of collude with each other to make a friendship work or a working relationship work. And that level of collusion means that we get the wrong impression of who and what they are. And so when we do start to talk about the metaphysical subjects, spiritual subjects, the greater reality, etc., and all sorts of different ways into these different subjects, it can catch us out when we think we know somebody, and actually we don't. So a classic example is within my own case is a friend I've known for 35 years, and we've had. I mean, I've been as calm as I can be about discussing certain things, but because I've completely misinterpreted the situation, because I wanted this friend of mine to understand the same level of information that I understand, that I've missed the signs totally. That he's not interested in the slightest bit, and we've had some quite, let us say, heated discussions as to what is the greater reality and what is acceptable reality, and so therefore what happens is we do go into this categorization. Acceptable reality for people who are immersed in their incarnation is that they are here. Their consciousness, their beingness, their sentience, the whole state of awareness, their intelligence revolves around them being the human being, and that includes their job, their relationship, their status, their family and friends around them. And so everything revolves around them being the human being and working in the human sense, and not really expressing themselves or wanting to express their own progression or shall I say, advancement or growth through being exposed to, or wanting to be exposed to, subjects that are beyond the physical. And that means anything which is specifically metaphysical, or even theoretical physics, for instance, those sorts of areas. Even those sorts of areas are an issue. So we have to be really careful that we read the people properly, and we don't really force ourselves upon them. The way to work with this is use your intuition. Is a certain individual who you know interested? And if they are, how would you encapsulate? How would you capture that interest and give them a bit about what you know as well? And if you do find somebody who is slightly interested, you might find their interest goes to a certain level. They may be basically in the sort of kindergarten arena of metaphysical understanding, or they may be quite advanced, but in a different area. And I've, again, using myself as an example, I've been in contact with people who are interested in metaphysics or spiritual physics or spirituality or the energetics, but they can only go to a certain level. And when you take them beyond that level, they struggle to understand and they reject it. And on the other side, I've had people who are, if you like, intuitive in their own right and connected in their own right, but aren't totally aware of their level of connection. And so those individuals themselves pick things up maybe in a higher sense, a sense which is outside of the structure that I'm currently working with now and others work with, and they may pick things up as being completely amorphous, which is, in essence, a true representation of what things are. But the amorphous has created structure to be able to understand that which it is in a structured way rather than an unstructured way. And so we find that there's a couple of camps here. There's the people who are at our level, who you can talk to, and you'll be able to have interesting dialogues and communication and be able to share your information between you and grow as a result of that. You have people on the lower end who are just starting out maybe, or they've been involved with spiritualism or metaphysics for a long, long time, for instance, but they've reached a certain level and they can't go beyond that, and you may be above that level, and it may be that when you engage them in dialogue, they can't go beyond their own level of comfort, for instance. And you'll get the other side, where individuals have bypassed the structure associated with experience or experiential an evolution progression that we as individualized sentient energies, individualized from our creator, who is individualized from its creator, and they pick up the amorphous side, which is purely unstructured, that which is currently maybe even sentient, but not particularly worried about creating anything that's conscious or structured or individualized. It may just be a part of source or part of origin which is not being accessed or used in a structured way yet. And so they will be on the other side. They will reject what we're talking about now as a structure, as a structured understanding of that which is available to us, because they're picking up a different level of beingness, so to speak. And so we have to be careful, because we can get to people who are in a lower understanding, but still spiritual, metaphysical, and you get people who are at I'm going to call it higher understanding, but it's not quite a higher understanding. It's picking up a higher state of beingness, or should I say, a more pure or unadulterated or unstructured state of beingness. And they also will have difficulty in understanding that. And again, I had a friend for probably 14 years now, and we discuss a lot of things. And although we've not had heated arguments, we've had a state where we had to understand, where I can understand where this person is, but because that person isn't unable to come down to the structured side of that, which is created by the amorphous, they can't get a grasp of the structured side of it. What's the point of having structure when everything is amorphous? The point of structure is it's the amorphous experiencing that which it isn't. And the amorphous is amorphous, it isn't structured, so it creates structure to experience itself. And so people who are picking up the amorphous can't really understand the structured side of things. So where we are, we have to be able to work in all the three camps. Our own area that we're working with, and we're quite capable of working with. The people below us, take them to their level, work with them and communicate with them to the point where they are at their own level. And then the other side is work with people on the level that they're working on, the higher level, but don't try to bring them down to a level which is, or don't try to take them to a different level where that level is based upon structure rather than the fully amorphous. Most important thing is, though, is to recognise that the point of disengagement from these individuals and let them be what they are. And so you'll find when they start to stutter or stammer or even when they start to become disengaged from you, then that is the time to start to move away from the subject matter that you're talking about. And so then you can walk away from them, knowing that in some place in their consciousness there's been a connection there, and that they may increase their awareness one way or another. But that's up to them. It's not up to us to push them. It's up to them to find their own level. Mine is just a quick question about amorphous. Is this like unorganised chaos? The amorphous is the sentience that is not organised, basically. For instance, it's the part of source or origin which is purely sentient energies, but has no alternative function other than staying in its original condition. And so you could classify it as unorganised chaos if you wished, but in essence, it is it's a little bit like being able to think, but without structure. There's no structure. It's completely randomised and omnipresent and omniscient. Okay. Mine is just like source into 12 asleep. Yeah, that's one way of thinking about it. Yes, that's another way of saying Another has meant, do you mean people who are God realised who reject the structured multiverse as irrelevant? Yes. People who are God realised don't specifically find themselves in the amorphous either. They can be stuck at certain levels as well. So the God realised individuals can be stuck with the experience of a certain level of communication with Source. There's an interesting, and I've said this before in a number of Satsangas, there's a book by Roy Eugene Davis where he's explaining the couple of years that he was with Paramahansa Yogananda before he actually moved on from his own incarnation. And he said, how many of these saints or yogis, advanced yogis, actually move beyond God? Because Yogananda talked about moving beyond that which was God. And he said, not many. And he said, you could probably count them on one hand. Even though there's hundreds of people who dedicated their lives to becoming extremely aware, they can get stuck in the, shall I say, the bliss state, and not move beyond the bliss state to go to that which is beyond God. And the rest of those questions was, so do you mean people who are God realised who reject the structural multiverse origin as relevant, like nirvana? Yes, if nirvana means the unstructured, or stuck in nirvana, yeah, they may be stuck in the bliss state and not move beyond the bliss state to understand that which created the bliss state in the first place. So it's very difficult for us as human beings to get our heads around, but it's a condition where it's raw ability, raw potential. It's probably one way of saying it, where the potential isn't being used yet or hasn't been guided yet, so the structure isn't there because that which is there hasn't been given a role to play, or a reason to be, or something to do, as an example. Okay, right. So really, with these people, use your intuition, feel your way, know when to back off. When you start to get arguments, or you start to get individuals who, shall I say, will try to counter you at every move, it's time to back away. And gracefully, just say, well, I think we need to agree to disagree, for instance. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, because you've just got different levels of understanding, or going down different routes. But the fully educated individual will know, for instance, all three of those different levels as examples. Obviously, there could be various different gradients of these levels, and work with all of them rather than just one of them. It is better to have a complete broad brushstroke understanding, or broadband understanding of the basics, the middle areas, and the higher, the understand the amorphous, rather than just being in one particular area. Yeah, and as Christian said, never react to taunts, never react to people who are what's the word for it? Throwing stones at you. There's an old saying, isn't it? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Don't worry about those sort of things. Just move on and send them your love. Send them your thoughts and your well-being, and hope that they do open themselves up later. And others have said, is it okay to not talk to my brother then for months? Yeah. No, I don't talk to my brother for months. I mean, me and my brother are on completely diametric opposites. It's not an issue. It's not a problem. If you want to talk to your siblings, then try to meet them on their ground. That's another lesson I've learned. Sometimes we have to talk in the banal, as it were, the immersed human being's language, to be able to communicate with them, because we love them, and we have to accept that they are what they are. So it's no problem to communicate on their level, recognising, of course, that we are working on a different level. And that we shouldn't think of ourselves as being more advanced than them. It's just that we're experiencing it something different, that's all. And so that helps us to remove the egotistical side of it. But there's nothing wrong with talking complete rubbish sometimes, or complete trash, as long as you don't get involved with gossip. That's the most important thing, because a lot of the immersed individuals, most immersed incarnates, may well go down towards the gossip side, which again is karmic. Okay. Well, I think that's covered that subject. It's actually amorphous in its own right, strangely enough. But in essence, we have to be careful as to who we engage, how we engage them, and picking the right time to change the subject, for instance, if it becomes frustrating for them to communicate with us and us with them. Okay. So what we're going to do now is go through the questions. We had some questions from last week, and I'm going to take them in the order that they arrived, actually. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to go through those first. And Bill said in his question, he said that this 3D world is just a let's cut and paste this. Okay, into the Skype instant messaging service. Next second result. And there we go. It's in this 3D world. This 3D world is just a shadow of the real world, an extension of one's mental space, giving form to its idea. So would it be safe to say that everything is just a metaphor, allowing for a more understanding in a symbolic way? We'll just talk about the amorphous, haven't we? And the amorphous is potential, raw potential of nothingness or somethingness. But in terms of the physical universe, it is a function of a multiversal environment, a smaller function of multiversal environment, which works on a specific level or levels. But everything in actuality is created for us to experience. And in the book I'm working on now, which is called The Curators, one of the things that's has looped around probably about 3 or 4 times is this idea that the entities who work within the multiverse to experience, learn and evolve are also part of the, shall I say, the need for it to be there. And also, in the participation of them within the multiversal environment, they maintain its existence as well. So, in that sense, it is a metaphor. It is not just the physical universe, but the rest of the other universes associated with the multiverse themselves. It is created through our desire to experience a different aspect of who and what we are, through an environment that's been created by our Creator, and that we maintain and support through our interaction with it. And so the desire for us to be within it and work it allows us to be there. And on top of that, there's other beings who work with us to help materialise, so to speak, our desires by maintaining the environmental condition that we find ourselves into, and ensure that it is able to cope with the desires and the thoughts, behaviours and actions of what we want to have within this environment as well. So there's entities which help to create that which we desire. But our intention to be within that environment creates its necessity and its need to be there. And these entities are there to help that. The rest of this question from Billy's, and if this is true then, truly if one doesn't allow the material world to fill them up with emotional stresses and walk with gratitude, compassion and unconditional love, then the idea of disease cannot exist unless it was written prior to the incarnate life. Disease cannot exist if we are in the right frame of mind. If we are consistently thinking of ourselves as being healthy and fit and well, then we will still stay healthy and fit and well. It's when we start to become absorbed in lower frequential thought processes, states of beingness, thoughts, behaviours and actions, that we do start to expose ourselves to dysfunctional energies, dysfunctional thought processes, disharmonious energies, which means that the gross physical reacts in a way which gives us disease and decrepitude as a result of that, and even growing old as well. I mean, growing old is programmed into us from the start. We believe we're going to grow old and die, but in real terms we don't need to. It's just that we fully believe, based upon what we see around us, in fact we create a knowledge-based system rather than a belief-based system, that the human body is going to demise at some point, and that will be the end of our existence. But in essence, if we moved away from that paradigm and understood what the human form is, we could perpetuate it ad infinitum, and we wouldn't be in a situation where we would be vehicles in a lower frequency existence that are continuously losing their efficiency and their ability to do what we want to do in a material way. Okay, so I hope that answers Bill's question. There's a question here from Fiona, Chris Wood's friend, and the question was talking about the feedback loop and the vacuum, right? Let's just copy this and put it into the... Okay. And the question was, Fiona wants to know about the feedback loop and the vacuum. Event space or ascension within it, ascension within it seems to be changing. Or is it our awareness or sensitivity to it that's changing? Is it due to the density of the earth changing and the shifting, or due to more and more people becoming aware of their spiritual nature and the connection to each other? I'll say it again because it's actually quite a complicated question, believe it or not. Fiona wants to know about the feedback loop and the vacuum. Event space or ascension within it seems to be changing, or is it our awareness or sensitivity to that which is changing? Is it due to the density of the earth changing and the shifting of our frequencies, for instance, or due to more and more people becoming aware of their spiritual nature and the connection to each other? Effectively, we are moving up the frequencies, and it's what I would call an iterative loop. It's an iterative loop that goes upwards. Now, this loop, which is basically like a coil spring, going upwards, and if you like, the pitch between the different coils, or our frequential levels, is either a big distance or a short distance, depending upon how we are progressing collectively. And so, if we are becoming more aware and awake, and we start to trust our intuition, and as a result of that we expose ourselves to higher functionality, we gain more information, we gain more experience, we start to trust that intuition, we start to trust those functions, and as a result we move up the frequencies. Because we move up the frequencies, we get exposed to other functions associated with higher frequencies. We start to work and trust those, and they become a normal. And when that happens, we start to move up to another higher frequency. So the more we work with ourselves, and the more progress we get, and the more, shall I say, positive results we get, the more we move upwards, the more we get exposed to higher functions, higher experiences, deeper levels of connectivity, more aware levels of connectivity, more understanding of who and what we are. And as a result of that, we do move further and further upwards. So this is an upward spiral, this is. This is what you could classify as being positive karma. If you just use karma as a way of explaining our ascension or descension through the frequencies, rather than the detail behind it, which you would find within the Avoiding Karma book. So we can progress upon that which we've progressed. It's a little bit like when you've made the tools to make the tools, you've then got the tools to make the tools to make further tools, so that you can make other tools to create the product which is detailed. Think of it in another way. Think of how we could make a silicon chip now by using 1940s technology. We couldn't, because we don't have the tools to make the tools to make the tools to make the tools. But once we do start to have this movement upwards, where we start to create these leaps forwards, either in technology or in spiritual physics or metaphysical or spiritual advancements, we start to move upwards. and it starts to become what I would argue is a logarithmic curve, which is almost exponential. The movement upwards is slow at first, and then the more we got, the more we get. The more we get, the more we've got. The more we've got, the more we get, and we move upwards, and eventually we get to the point where our growth is vertical, rather than on a gradual incline, which then changes into a more vertical but still horizontal progression, and eventually becomes totally vertical. So it's a very good question, that is, and one which is very useful. But our movement through event spaces, when we are becoming more and more aware, is less. We stay more online with our mainline event space or mainline series of events, and we also start to experience more and more individuals who are on our level as well, and we work with each other to help each other move onwards and upwards. So that's hopefully that's answered that question. It's a very good question. But again, it's this upward motion. It's this upwardly mobile motion. Okay. Right. I've got some questions here. I think, Ulla, can you cut and paste them into the Skype instant messaging service? Brilliant. Thank you. So, right. So this is a good lead-in and then two questions. And it's based upon Barbara Brennan's book. Okay. And it says, here is an interesting question about reincarnation from Barbara Brennan's Facebook post today. And she said she'd like me to comment on what she wrote. In Hands of Light, that's Barbara's first book, by the way, about the mechanics of healing. I spoke about the phenomenon of reincarnation. By the way, this text is Barbara talking about it. So this is Barbara's post. Okay. She said, in Hands of Light, I spoke about the phenomenon of reincarnation in the same lifetime that occurs when somebody finishes his or her life task and moves into another life task without leaving the body. I described a cocoon that forms in the auric field around the vertical power line of the spine. You could argue that's the hara line, but also there's a power line which connects the spine and the plexuses of the chakra as well. So there's more information there. So she's explaining more here. I've observed that within the cocoon, on the haric level, the hara line dissolves and re-establishes itself, thus establishing a new life task for the new incarnation without requiring to start over with a new body. The process of dissolving the old hara line and re-establishing a new one usually takes about 2 years. So the question is this how you see it conceptually and analytically, or is Brennan's interpretation of it correct? And then Ulla asks, did Anne tell you more about this in the Anne dialogues? Please elaborate on how it fits in with our accelerated lines here. This, to me, very much feels like an interpretation of the energetic function surrounding a walk-in, where the aspect or soul that is the incumbent soul or aspect of a human vehicle moves out and another one moves in. So, going back up to Barbara's first comments in here, she spoke about the phenomenon of reincarnation in the same lifetime that occurs when somebody finishes his or her life tasks and moves into another life task without leaving the body. I very much feel that this is more of a walk-in than somebody expanding their incarnation through having a new life plan. My understanding is that once you've finished your life plan, you've got carte blanche. If you wish to stay here, you can. If you wish to move on, there's various different ways the body can be demised, and the termination juncture of which is chosen at the soul and true energetic self level, and so therefore there would be no need to dissolve any hara lines, because the hara line is a connection between the true energetic self and the incarnate aspect or soul. So a hara line can't dissolve completely, because if you dissolve completely, then that particular incarnation is terminated. because the horror line is a connection between and the protected energetic link and communicative link between the true energetic self and the incarnate aspect. So if it does dissolve, it means that there is a new aspect due to or going to occupy that body. Now, when Barbara says it takes 2 years, that to me is an example of a length of time it may take for one aspect to leave the body and another aspect to engage in the body. And so the aspect would need to understand on an energetic level the environment it finds itself in and the environments that the vehicle is going to work with, is going to incarnate into, has experienced and is working with, and those individuals or other incarnate individuals that it interfaces with as well. So it's almost like going into a new job and becoming competent before you're allowed to go work on your own. Another way of saying it, it's almost like learning how to fly a plane and becoming competent to the point where at some point you can fly solo. And so at some point in time, the incarnate, the first incarnate soul moves out, but only when the second incarnate soul is competent at operating, or should I say, animating the human vehicle it's got, and is fully conversant with the history associated with that human vehicle created by the first soul, and how it's worked with its own work, and then therefore the life plan of the second soul sort of dovetails into that, and then starts to create a change maybe, or a continuation of the existing one. So the second part of this question is: does our soul pass through the sun in our solar system to come to Earth, like in some galactic groups describe it? No. All souls can move around through within any part of the physical universe because it's a lower frequency, and we, as disincarnate individuals, can basically interface with any part of the multiverse by just wanting to experience it. There's no need to do that though. And so this comment about does our soul pass through the sun? Well, it can do that, but there's no need for it to do it unless it particularly wants to experience some of the physical aspects of the sun, or even the energetic aspects of a sun, whilst in a particular desire to have some evolutionary experience as a result of doing that. It doesn't make an awful lot of sense, to be honest. Even though some galactic groups describe it, it's possible that some suns are energetic focal points that can be used for travelling long physical distances because of the vast variance in energies and their frequential states and their stability associated with it. So it's possible to use a body such as a sun to move through, but then again you've got the same thing with black holes as well. You've got the same thing with wormholes, and you've got the same thing by self-created translations between one frequency and another through mechanical or energetic means. The rest of this is: does the Earth show the soul which lifetimes or bodies are available for our soul to go into, or is it just done at a different level? So the lifetime or lifetimes associated with what we want to achieve whilst engaging in the physical universe are available to us via this Akashic Records function of this source entity's energies. We can do all sorts of different what-if scenarios, and what if this event space fails, what if this event space invokes, what happens if this event space collides with another event space. And so we can see the various different what-if scenarios associated with existences, and the potentials existences that we have had, will have, should have, could have, may have had, and will have. And so it all happens at the same time. And so that's a function of the Akashic records. All of this is held there because it's a function of memory, of omnipresent spherical memory, so to speak. Nothing of this sort is dealt with on this level, this being the physical universe level. The physical universe is simply an environment, in my understanding, for us to experience, learn and evolve through various different hardships associated with. I say hardships because being here is hard, full stop. Even if we have a wonderful life, it'll have been hard. So, in that essence, it's the experience of which particular incarnation we may have, or would have, or will have, is nothing to do with the Earth. It's part of the function of what we call the Akashic records, which are specific to incarnate human beings, or souls or aspects who incarnate in the human form. Okay. Mohd asked a question: is the UK leaving the EU a low frequency attitude, or do we have to wait and see? It's in actual fact, it's anything where we are moving away from a communal state of beingness is a return to a low frequency condition. We're thinking of ourselves rather than our collective. So the answer is yes, in a very simplistic way, because if we were working in a more enlightened way, we would be more connected and collected together. And all, as I said, or is it just a breaking of old structures that have outlived their usefulness? That's also possible, but then again, it may well be that there may need to be a breaking up of an old structure, which would mean that other countries within the EU may leave it, so that the real work or the real opportunity can be engaged by recreating a communal condition where we're all working together, but with a higher level of understanding, rather than a perverted level of understanding and a perverted state of beingness, where it's more involved with the betterment of other societies at the detriment of others. And so, yeah, and so it could be that it could be a part of, as I also said, that without corporations writing the laws and codes for the people that are being presented to us by politicians and our leaders. Yes. So all of this can be interpreted as being potentially a tearing up of old structures and the creation of new ones, which may or may not be amorphous, of course. Okay. Yeah, mine is saying both are happening simultaneously. Lack of leadership and fear mongering to motivate. Exactly. So it's a case of. I think we just need to sit back and wait and see. I was originally a little bit sort of worried about this change of state of beingness, because we've been in the EU, as it's called now, for quite a long time. But it may well be an interesting catalyst for positive change later. Let's see what happens there. Right. So hopefully that's sort of settled those questions. Bill's got a question here that he sent to me, and I'm going to remove something before I actually broadcast it to you. Okay. Okay, like that. Okay. He's saying this may be out of bounds, but I thought that I would ask the question anyway. He says he's got people asking me about whether or not the channeling of the Pleiadians is authentic or a host, and he named an individual, and I've removed the name of that individual to maintain their own privacy. So he says, I'm not sure who the Pleiadians are supposed to be. Well, there's a number of different incarnate entities who are of a higher frequential state than we are, and some of those are just slightly higher than us, and some of them are quite higher than us. The ones that are very high in terms of their frequency level compared to us, probably the fifth or sixth. Well, it's not quite high in multiversal terms, but it's high in comparison to where we are now, and would be potentially classified as being energetic. But those in the fifth, sixth, and seventh levels who are incarnating, fifth, sixth, and seventh levels of frequency who are incarnating, would need to be channeled, so to speak. They would communicate telepathically with people, because they wouldn't be able to communicate in any other way. And they could do that via pure energetic connectivity, or they can be depending upon whether they need to have some sort of technology. It could be created by a technology-based link. So channeling is one way of saying communicating to incarnate individuals who are of a higher frequency. The name of the individuals is immaterial. It's the frequential state they're at. And as I said, aren't there Pleiadians at every level, like frequency band 9 or 12? I'm not being told that. They are a civilization in their own right. They're like us, but they're more advanced. They understand more about the greater reality. So when they're incarnate, they don't lose as much of their connectivity and state of beingness as we do when we incarnate in the human form. So they stay more aware and awake. And there's others like Arcturians, Syrians, etc., 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 who are also incarnate entities. And again, because some of them are a higher frequency, the communication is telepathic and therefore is sometimes classified, probably incorrectly, as being channeling. Channeling is something where it is particularly attributed to disincarnate entities that we're communicating with, not entities that are incarnate the same as us, but just on a different frequency level. So that's that. So is the individual authentic or a hoax? My feeling is that they just logging into that particular individual, what's going on. I'm being told that there's a level of communication going on a telepathic level. So there is communication there, but there's quite a bit of overlay of individual personal preference of the person who's doing the channeling, or should I say, receiving the telepathic communications. So there's a bit of sort of personal preference going on there as well. So it is authentic, but it's being filtered. Is one way of saying it. Okay, let's go to the next question. And Atso's got one here. A couple of questions before we go on to the meditation. I'm going to let's cut and paste that. Okay. Right. Okay. Atso says he has a couple of questions to Satsanga, and he hopes we can cover them. The first one's related to the History of God book. Okay. So, and I'll be honest with you, I've forgotten most of the information in the History of God as I'm working on other topics, but we can see what comes through. The question, this is a dialogue with the origin. So the dimensions and the frequencies are in effect the same thing. However, one is separate, whereas the other one's together. And I comment saying, can you explain? And the origin says, with a frequency change, the matter, spiritual, physical, is further apart from its lowest frequency, this lower frequency self. Whereas a high dimensional level, the matter, spiritual, physical, is in the same place as lower dimensional part. The dimension is therefore overlaid by time rather than frequency, which is separated by a molecule's speed and the space it occupies. And Atso said, can I please elaborate on the above? This information is very much physical information, actually. So I'll read the rest of the question out so we can see how we go with this. Can you please elaborate on the above? I still don't get the difference between a frequency and a dimension. How can a dimension be overlaid by time if time exists only in the low frequencies? Time actually doesn't exist. It's a word that the origin is used to explain something, to explain phase or repeatability is more of a word. I'll come back to that in a moment. So how can a dimension be overlaid by time if time exists only in lower frequencies? And where does time exist? Only in the bottom three frequencies of the first dimension? How do terms frequency and dimension in my terminology relate to the dimension in popular New Age terminology? Ascension from 3D to 5D. Is 5D in the New Age terminology equal to the fifth frequency, first dimension of my terminology? Right, now then. In reality, time doesn't exist. So when New Age terminology says we're going to ascend from 3D to 5D, it's saying we're moving through the time phase. So the fourth dimension in New Age terminology is time. But how can we move through something that doesn't exist to go to another dimension? So in effect, the New Age understanding, which both recognises the non-existence of time, but then uses it from a structural perspective to move from the third dimension to the fifth dimension, is a dichotomy associated with an error in thinking, where we reject and we understand the rejection of one particular metric, but we include it in a different metric. So it's a misunderstanding there. My current understanding is changing significantly because of my own experience and my own exposure to information, and so I'm not going to dwell on the amorphous states of beingness. But in essence, the structure that's been created allows the ability for certain levels of materialistic conditions, and by that I don't just mean the physical universe, I mean anything that's created has a function of materialism to it, is a function of the structure of the multiverse. The multiverse is a facsimile of the lowest energetic structures associated with the source. So we've got full dimensions, and we've got frequential states within those dimensions. Dimensions themselves split out into three, which are the subdimensions, and each of those subdimensions houses 12 frequential states. So each full dimension has 36 frequencies or frequential states associated with it. So in essence, the one is a function of the other. It's a little bit like filling the gaps in. A dimension is a condition of the creation of structure from that which is unstructured. It's allowing the framework for something to exist within. So if you think of it like a building, when we build a skyscraper, for instance, we dig out the foundations and we create a framework. And that framework is usually concrete and steel. And that could be used as a descriptor for the dimensions. Then we have the rest of the building which is made. We have the brickwork that fills in the gaps between the concrete and steel structure, and that gives us the descriptor of the subdimension, because it's the bits that are in the middle, so to speak. It fills the gaps in between the bigger structure, which is the dimensions. And then we've got the frequencies, which are again the gaps in between the states of beingness that each of the different subdimensional conditions are. So they're, if you like, they're the stairs in between the floors, in between the skyscraper. So, and then within all the different floors, you've got the infrastructure. You've got the piping, you've got the electrics, you've got the decoration, the furnitures, and all those sorts of things, which fit it all together. So we've got a structure there which is necessary to allow finer structure to exist. And all of this structure is created anyway as a function of manifestation of the individualization of sentient energies to create a being which is self-contained, self-aware, and self-motivating in terms of its own evolutionary progression, the source, and that beingness is being given to ourselves in the source taking other parts of itself and giving it and individualizing those parts of the sentient energies that they're created. So the frequencies are the gaps in between the subdimensional components, which are the framework from within which those gaps can be housed. And it's all very. It's a difficult way to explain it, but basically, in reality, all of this is just amorphous anyway. But from a structured perspective, there has to be a level of logical structure to allow the detail to exist within it. And so, when we look at the description that the origin gave in the history of God, it's giving it in a state of physics, in a physical state of being. It's giving it in a human physical science or physics understanding that we can work with to then allow us to move to the next level of understanding, so we can get a deeper level of understanding as well. And after if time does not exist, then reincarnation also does not exist. Reincarnation exists because we choose various different conditions to be in. The thing is that we think is linear, but actually our next reincarnation might already have happened, or is happening concurrently. And therefore, as you say, then all incarnations are now, none was before another. That's correct. Everything is happening concurrently. Everything happens at the same time. And the structure associated with these dimensions allows everything, with the subdimensional components and the frequencies, is there to allow all this to happen, to create this environment where everything can happen at the same time. Second question is then, as you understand it, our source sensitive one split itself into 12, like the origin did. Did these 12 also split into 12 and then the next 12 again? Now the source sensitive, well, I'll read the question out properly and then I'll answer the question in my understanding. It says, Atso says, as I understand it, our source sensitive one split itself into 12, like the origin did. Did these 12 also split into 12 and then the next 12 again split into 12, and so on, to get all the true energetic selves that exist today? In that case, how many levels of creation below our true energetic selves are there? Say, if the origin is level 1 of our existence, source entities are level 2, and so on, which level are the true energetic selves? Simplistically put, the source splits itself into effectively 3. That which it is, that which is part of it which is unoccupied, and that which it is in smaller terms to occupy that which was unoccupied. And so the source created part of itself, separated out part of itself to exist as a structure, and then hived off smaller parts of its own sentient energies to occupy that space, to allow it to do, to allow those different entities the opportunity to experience that which it is, the source, in a different way that doesn't stop the source from operating in the way it's working anyway. So it's a little bit like a subroutine. Our true energetic selves and us are working in an area that's been quarantined and is a subroutine. So it's allowing the source to experience learning and evolve in myriad different ways concurrently, rather than doing it itself. Although it is doing it because they are us and we are it. That's the way to think of it. And so the origin. So thinking on it this way, the origin is level 1. Source entities are level 2, as are the they're also level 2, and we, or I should say, our true energetic selves are level 3, and so us as aspects, not shards, are level 4, and therefore any shards will be level 5, in terms of a hierarchical state of going from the original creator, which is the origin, down to the source entities and the which are the uncreated creations, down to the true energetic selves, down to the aspects, down to the shards. So it's that level of hierarchy there. Although if you think of it properly, we are just a function of that which is us anyway. We're a smaller function of, a smaller specialised or individualised function of that which we are. And Marnie's just said, no wonder I feel so incomplete. Well, you are the source. You are, in essence, you are the origin as well. So the oversoul will be the true entity self. Yes, that's right. The oversoul, the higher self, the Godhead, and the true entity self are all the same thing. They're different words to describe the same thing. That's which we are part of. Okay. And so there's only one of us here, that's right, which is, in reality, origin. If you take it as far as you can. Okay. Right, I think that's the end of the questions looking at this. I'm just having a quick look at the email. Right, okay. That's the end of the questions. So what I want to do now, and hopefully that Ola said there's only one of us here, and Chris said, who said that's Neil Walsh? Yeah, actually Neil's got some good stuff. It's fairly basic stuff, but Neil has got some good stuff there. You just have to work your way through his material. But Neil Walsh's stuff is designed to help us become awake, not to progress that level of wakefulness. Okay, right. Although people do progress from it, of course. Everything is useful. Everything is essential, and everything is positive and moves forwards. So let's have a look at the. Okay. Right, just checking see what meditation is, which is a meditation to cleanse our souls of those frequencies we attract through interacting with others during normal incarnate existence. Okay. So in finishing now, okay, this is the last of the live satsangas, and hopefully we can move forwards and broadcast more information through the new route of working with Kevin Moore. Okay, I've picked up about Kevin that there's an awful lot of stuff going on with Kevin, and that he's going to be very influential in his later life in terms of the broadcasting of progressive thought processes. Okay, so it's going to be an interesting relationship between his work, and me and my work, and of course all of you as well. Of course, he's channeling the one. Well, there's only one, isn't there? Others has commented that Kevin Moore has also got some work to do in terms of doing channeling work, and he's become more aware and awake. And my understanding is the one is the origin. Basically, there is that one. Okay, he's tapping into that level, which is very, very good. Not source, no. It's the one. It's not going into source. He's going into origin. In essence, the source is the origin anyway. But and clearly, from our perspective, we would have to go through source to get to origin anyway, because the source is our link with origin, because we are the source. We're part of the source, but the source is part of the origin. So we go through like a hierarchical state in reality to get to where we are. Okay. So and Kevin is becoming more and more awake as we speak. He's going to be a very useful individual to follow. I would suggest. Okay. So let's do this meditation to cleanse ourselves. So if you can sit with your back straight in your chairs and your feet flat on the ground. With your eyes closed, and your closed eye vision on the area in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose, where the third eye is. The third eye is not the chakra that we call the spiritual or third eye chakra. It is a separate function. Okay. And what I want you to do is to just relax for a moment. And just cleanse your minds. Remove any stray thoughts, shopping lists, thoughts, jobs, work you've got to do, things you've got to talk about with your partner or your friends or your colleagues, work colleagues. And just focus on what you are. Now, when we interact with other individuals who are fully immersed in their incarnation or are nearly fully immersed in their incarnation, we have to work on their level. And we have to work on their level because if we don't, they don't perceive us. They ignore us because they don't see us. What is not perceived isn't seen as well. So we have to work in a way which is, for all intents and purposes, a level below, or level or two below, what we are used to. And so in working with people, generally, we start to attract, or should I say, lower frequential energies start to stick to us. These are a mechanical function of karma. They weigh us down. They make our frequential state lower than it actually is, and therefore we descend the frequencies, becoming more and more dense. The more frequent, the more globules, shall I say, spheres of lower frequency that get attracted to us. We can only attract lower frequential energies if we desire to be attracted to them. If we desire to be attracted to them in any way, shape or form, and it could be a certain behaviour pattern, certain thought process, certain desire for status or wealth, or a body type, that attracts us to lower frequency existence. It guides our thought process to a lower state of beingness, not to the state of beingness that we are naturally, which is purely energetic. And so we become more and more dense as a result of interfacing with others whom we have to reduce our frequencies to be able to interface with them. So there's two ways of removing this energy. One of the ways is to just consider yourself as having a Teflon coating, so to speak, on the outside of your seventh auric layer. Or you can extend and rotate each of your chakras in turn to bring yourself up to at least the seventh level. and therefore anything that is of the material universe will drop off you, because its level, that level is the first three levels, levels 1, 2 and 3. Primarily 1 and 2, but 1, 2 and 3 the gross physical. Thinking of your outer skin, your outer auric layer as being Teflon coated is an easier way of thinking of it, but it doesn't give you any detail behind what you're doing. The Teflon coating should be considered to be a frequency level 7. It's an actively functioning frequency level 7. And that anything that is of the levels 1, 2 and 3 cannot affect it. It is impervious. So those levels, those energies, or any globules of energy are impervious to you on this level. Another way of thinking of it, the way I like to think of it, which is more mechanical and it's more logical for us, is to think of ourselves as being covered in a little layer of denser energy. And to remove that layer of denser energy, this denser energy of course keeping us down to that level of frequency associated with that energy, can be moved or removed by us increasing our frequency. And a very simple way of doing that is, of course, extending and rotating the chakras, as I previously mentioned. So let's just visualize ourselves having sticky or low frequency energy all over our 7th auric layer. And what we're going to do now is increase our frequencies. So that lower frequency energy on our 7th auric layer can't stay there. It either dissolves or just drops off. This is where the idea of the Teflon coating comes into it. If we increase our frequencies, these low frequency energies that we naturally attract as a result of communicating with other incarnate entities naturally drops off. So to do that, let's just extend and rotate our chakras one by one. So moving our, and we can stay on the 7th level, so we don't need to turn them off afterwards. Okay, we can keep ourselves high frequency. This is part of the traverse of the frequencies, by the way, so it's a function of that. Quite easy. So let's visualize our root chakra, our base chakra, first chakra, extending, which is basically like a cone shape with the small diameters towards the body and the larger diameters facing away from the body, extending down towards the ground from its point of origin, which is where the 2 legs meet the lower body. So just visualize this cone extending down towards the ground and then rotating clockwise. If you think of clockwise as being equal to seeing a clock on the floor in between our 2 legs, and the second hand rotates clockwise as we look at the clock. Okay, so the clockwise to us is following the clock. If somebody was looking at us from the front of us, we'd be going anti-clockwise. But because we're following the clock, the second hand of the clock whilst it's on the floor, we're actually going clockwise. From the chakra's perspective, it is how we look out of our eyes that counts. So let's extend it out, ask it to be extended to its full extension, and then we can rotate it clockwise, and that elevates us to the first level. Now the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th chakras have 2, a front aspect and a rear aspect. The front are our intention, the rears are action. So whatever we do with the front chakra, the intention, the back chakra, the action follows suit. So we don't need to worry about the back chakras. Everything happens to those automatically. So let's move to the second level then by extending out from our body. The sacral chakra. Extend it out to its maximum extension, and then rotate it clockwise in sympathy with the second hand of a clock that may be on a wall in front of you this time. So it goes from number 12 to number 3, number 6, number 9, back to number 12 again, and then continues round. Location of the sacral chakra is 3 inches below the navel. And extending and rotating that chakra, it lifts up to a different level, the second level. Now we can go to the third level by extending and rotating the third chakra, the solar chakra, from its point of origin, which is 3 inches above the navel. So imagine this cone growing out from your 3 inches above your belly button, and then rotating clockwise in the same way. As you can see, the second hand of the clock on this imaginary clock that's on the wall in front of you. And that elevates us to the third level. Already we're starting to see or feel this sticky substance, this low frequency energy that we've attracted throughout the day or the week, starting to become agitated, not wanting to be there. So let's help it on its way by moving up to the fourth level. We do this by extending and rotating the heart chakra. Rotation is clockwise, of course. Follow the second hand from 12 to 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 again. In front of us. And the origin of the fourth chakra is at the centre of the front of the chest, the sternum. Okay. So in the middle of the rib cage, the upper part of the rib cage, with the left hand and right hand aspects of the rib cage joined together in the middle. And extending and rotating clockwise this chakra, this heart chakra, we elevate ourselves to the fourth level. This low frequency energy starts to lose its cohesion now, starts to become disconnected or not so sticky to us. So we can go to the fifth level now by extending and rotating our fifth chakra. And the fifth chakra's point of origin is at the centre of the front of the neck. So extend that chakra out in front of you, small diameter of the neck, where the Adam's apple is, large diameter further away. And again rotate it clockwise in sympathy with following the second hand of this imaginary clock on the imaginary wall in front of you. Clockwork, or clockwise, going from number 12 to number 3 to number 6 to number 9, back to number 12 again. And our chakra follows that. Clockwise is what we see from out of our eyes. And again, as we've gone to level 5, the cohesion of this low frequency to our seventh orbit layer starts to dissolve, starts to become unstuck. So we get to the next frequency, which is the sixth frequency, by extending and rotating the sixth chakra. From its point of origin in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. Similar location to the third eye, although the third eye is set in from the forehead towards the brain, called the pineal gland. It's got a physical and spiritual function. In doing this, again, you're rotating clockwise is the same as the other chakras, the second, third, fourth and fifth, following the rotation of the second hand. From number 12 to number 3 to number 6 to number 9 to number 12 again. We've almost removed the stiction of this lower frequency energy to us. It's almost falling off, starting to drip off if you think of it that way. And then the last level is to go to level 7, which is to extend and rotate the crown chakra from its point of origin, which is the centre of the top of the head. Extend it up towards the ceiling, rotate it clockwise in sympathy with the second hand of a clock that is on the ceiling, for instance, making sure we go in the right way. And so we raise our frequency up to the 7th level, and the lower frequency energy associated with the first 3 that are attracted to us as part of our everyday work with incarnate beings starts to drip off at an ever accelerating pace until we are eventually completely devoid of low frequency energy. There's nothing more sticking to us, and we start to feel much more active, sharp, collected, understanding, able. You can keep all the 7th chakras open, keep yourself a higher frequency. It'll help protect you against interfacing with lower frequency individuals who could rub off some of their energy onto you, or whose energy you may attract through working with them on levels of communication which are below where you're supposed to be. And so feeling yourself to be uncovered, you'll start to feel very light in comparison. Much lighter. And so you can leave these chakras open, there's nothing wrong with it, it'll keep your Teflon coating working, and you should start to feel much lighter and much more animated as a result of it. And also your intuition will work on a more complete sense as well. So when you're ready, you can slowly come back into the room of where you are, recognizing that you are now cleansed of those lower frequencies associated with the interaction with other incarnate individuals at this level. Okay. So, how do you all feel? Okay. You can either speak via the microphone or via the Skype message service. All is okay, I think. Fiona should be... You okay, Fiona? Good. That sounds good. You can do this both morning and night, by the way. Okay. Thank you. Bill's okay, good. Terry's okay. Morella's okay, good. Marnie's good. Mo and Jeremy, you okay?
Yeah, okay.
Good. Joe's okay? Okay. Good, thank you. Chris is okay. Atso, he's okay. Good. Let's just check and see what else was there. I think everybody's fed back. I think Terry's okay as well. Phil's okay from this side. Okay. Good. Just checking you all out. So you don't need to close them now, that's right. You can leave them open because they'll keep your frequencies up, and any sticky or low frequency energy will just drip off you now. A bit like water off a duck's back. And you won't feel sluggish or low in energies either. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for this, for attending this Satsanga, and looking forward to receiving your questions for the next one, which will be pre-recorded, of course, and will be also broadcast by Kevin Moore. And what I will do is, when I understand the links to the way in which Kevin's broadcasting them, I'll also send them to you as well. Okay. And thank you all for being part of the live Satsangas over the years. And it's a bit of a shame that we're having to change direction, but I'm being told it's growth for us. It's growth. It's growing the broadcasting medium. Okay. Okay, everybody. Thank you, everybody, and much love to you all. And I'll send you an email with this link again. You'll still receive the links to the recorded ones in the future, and I'll send out a deadline for the questions as well. Thank you, everybody. God's love with you all, and my love as well. And it's been thank you all. Thank you. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everybody. Bye. 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 Bye.
Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?